Michael, when would you say the last time nearly 2 million people were watching Raw?
It's probably been a minute. I don't know, probably D-Generation X invading WCW? Somewhere in that
right.
somewhere in that territory?
Like that. I think that they say that, so on Monday, 1.89 million viewers watched Raw. It's the highest one since WrestleMania. And so evidently there's probably been some good ones that were, anywhere from just before Mania to, a year before that. Mm-hmm. It was the number one show on cable on Monday. And the most watched since WrestleMania. I remember when 2 million people was a low number for Raw.
Yeah.
But it was streaming. It's changed everything, right?
Yep, absolutely. I mean, numbers in general have gone down. I mean, when you think that you're just trying to break 1 million for a network primetime slot, you go back 15 years ago, they'd cancel you for that. And now it's like, man, if you can crack 1 million, 1.2, 1.3, that's like a great week. And
exactly.
It's pretty crazy to see the way, things have changed over the years. Take that, Nielsen boxes.
Yeah, you know more than anybody. You don't get me started on ratings, but I just thought that was interesting. That if it's all measured the same all the time, then a near 2 million viewers for Raw is really, really good. I think that SmackDown gets somewhere between like 2 and 2.8 or something, but that's also a network television. That's free over the air for everyone if you don't have cable or some kind of streaming like YouTube TV or whatever, Hulu. So 2 million there is not as big of a deal, but for cable and people to be sitting in front of their TV. Now, I know Monday Night Football is not back yet, but I did see some preseason games last week. It was like, oh, something smells like football right now.
Yeah.
Oh, it is, because it's on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although there are no starters that seem to be playing. I saw Dak Prescott wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt, but he made sure and had the earpiece so he can hear the plays being called.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's a good play. Yeah.
I approve of that play.
Yeah, exactly. I think the really kickoff for football though was when college football came out on Xbox and PlayStation.
Oh, you know it. Yeah.
That was the real one. I haven't played. I wasn't a big video game guy, and I know we talked a little bit about that when AEW came out with theirs, and we had Dave and the crew from THQ on, and but I jumped back because I loved NCAA back in the day, and so I bought the game, been playing it. I am absolutely horrible. I threw 7 picks in one game the other day.
That's great for you. That's
great. I feel like I just evidently throw to the wrong guy. I don't know.
It's interesting the way video games have developed because I played pretty much every wrestling game consistently all the way up until 2K took over. And then I was playing about every other year. Because prior to 2K, they didn't come out with a game every year. It was just as they developed it and whatever. And I noticed that when 2K took over, it just kept getting more complex and more complex and more complex. And kind of similar to you, like the last one I played, which was like 2K 2021 maybe,
sure.
I couldn't win anything. And so I've kind of left that part of my life behind because apparently I don't have the coordination anymore. Because you have to push like 4 different buttons and use the joysticks, to do like a submission hold. And, I can't imagine football being that much better or easier. So
I spent probably 4 plays. It would pop up on the football game and say RS if you want to shrug off the block or whatever. So I'm looking at the controller going, I don't see an RS on here anywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the joystick on the right. I see. Yes. Yeah. Got it. All right. This is not a video game podcast. This is a wrestling podcast. So back to Raw. Huge success on Monday. Lots to get to in Raw. We're not going to hit on everything, but one I want to pick up on a couple actually. I think big success came because of what the main event was, a 2 out of 3 falls match, which we haven't seen on WWE TV in a long time. I can't right now name the last 2 out of 3 falls match that they had that had any kind of significance. This one for the Intercontinental Heavyweight title. Of course, that was Braun Breaker and Sami Zayn. And out of the gate, Sami Zayn gets the first pinfall. Well, you know, a 2 out of 3, it's always going to go to 3. But did you expect Sami to get the first one?
I didn't. I mean, it was a 50-50 shot, right?
Sure, that's true. Yeah.
I didn't know what was going to happen. I wouldn't have been surprised if it would have changed over again.
That's true.
But it was good. The match had great pacing. To answer your question, the last one that I can remember, 2 out of 3 falls match, I'm sure there's been one since then, but I think the last one that I remember that actually mattered was, I think it was 2000, and it was the Armageddon pay-per-view, and it was Triple H versus Shawn Michaels for the World Heavyweight Championship. And it was something like first fall was a tables match, second fall was steel cage, and third was ladder or something like that. But yeah, not too much since then, I don't think. But no, it was a great match overall with Sami and Braun. Braun's just a beast, man. Like,
he is.
It's unsettling, but yeah, it was really solid overall. I was kind of surprised he held on to it, but at the same time not. So I'm not.
I see him, and now is he going to challenge Gunther's 666 days with the IC strap? I probably not. However, they built him up to be a beast, and he is a beast. And I see him holding on at least to, I would say probably, if I had to guess, at least a year for a guy to be a beast the way he has been. Again, I don't think he's going to challenge Gunther for that most number of days with the title. We'll wait and see. I do like how they're booking him and what they're doing. They're keeping him looking strong, but also, okay, there's a chance. There's a chance he could get beat. He's probably not, but there's a chance. Yeah. And I like that. Yeah. That's always really good. Another big match that I thought wasn't even a match. This was just an incident. We were expecting to see CM Punk on Raw, which originated from just down the road from me in Austin, Texas. And what was interesting is right at the beginning, when Dom and Liv came out, they were standing where my seats were the last time I went.
Yeah.
And no one was up there then. It was a SmackDown, and it felt like there were only 3 matches on that show. It was actually pretty ho-hum, and my daughter wanted to walk around the new Moody Center. She was more interested in what was going on in the hallways than necessarily what was going on in the ring. But we're literally right there where they were standing. Those were our seats, and I had to show her that last night. But started off huge and fighting through the I think it's the Dell Club that's up there with when everything went down, and that was pretty cool. But the one we were expecting to see CM Punk somewhere close to the beginning of the show said he had some travel delays. Ended up showing up when Drew McIntyre wasn't expecting CM Punk to come out, and what looks like is we're going to end up with a strap match in the near future. How you feel about that?
I can't say that I've seen. Have I seen a strap match?
Probably in AEW.
Maybe.
I don't think you've seen one at WWE
that would make sense because,
since Attitude.
Because this is different than a bull rope match, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So forgive my ignorance, but what is a strap match?
So very similar is both of them has a loop on each end, so you're tied to each other. But the whole thing is a big leather strap. So if you can get some slack in that, you can use it as a weapon if you'd like.
Okay. So same premise as the bull rope match then.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. I don't know if it makes sense. I'm gonna be honest. It feels a little random to me. I feel like the same thing could have been accomplished in a steel cage that made a little more sense. Like, hey, no running. No whatever, but sure. Hey, I'm here for it. Let's see what they got.
I wonder when this is going to happen. I think it was interesting how it was introduced by Drew McIntyre, but that quickly left his hands. That belt left his hands and went to CM Punk, as we saw on social media. The evidence left behind after CM Punk got his hands on Drew McIntyre's belt, not any kind of championship belt, just his pants belt. And laid into him. Imagine that being a much thicker piece of leather, and you're tied to him, and you can't get away. There's going to be some whelps for sure. Anxious to see when that happens, because that kind of leads me to that's where they're going to go with this.
Yeah.
You see anything different?
I would think I can't see anything different right now. I'll tell you what though, I put myself in the position of having to think about and prepare for a strap match.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'd rather do a lot of things in wrestling
so
except a strap match. I mean, it's like a strap and thumbtacks are like the two things that I'd be like, yeah, I think I'm good. I'll take the chair shot. I'll get my face rubbed against the cage or the Hell in a Cell, or I can jump off of something. I can take a table, but strap. I'll add to that list: no straps, no thumbtacks, and no chops from Gunther or Sheamus.
These evidently are kids who didn't grow up like we did, taking a belt to our bottoms, right?
Yeah.
Well, I guess sure, it won't be that big of a deal. Sign me up. Yeah. Switching gears from WWE over to AEW for a second, Fightful is reporting that it's likely that AEW will run a stadium show in Arlington, Texas at Globe Life Field in the near future. That's where the Texas Rangers play. This seats 40,000, and that's with just in the stands. Very easy to scale that down to make something look huge where you don't have to sell 50, 60, 70,000 seats. However, what I wanted to ask you is they just spent a month in Arlington. In fact, I think this Saturday is the last show of Collision from the esports arena in Arlington. Ran an entire month there, and crowds look great for it. Now, it was a much smaller crowd, talking, I think, like between 800 and 1,200 or something like that. Most of them sold out. Looked really good on TV. I loved the production of that place and how they put that together. That'll wrap it up this weekend. What does AEW need to do to have a successful event at a stadium in America? Now, we know that they're going to go, coming up here in just a couple of weeks, back over to the UK. It's England at Wembley, and I think that's somewhere, if I'm guessing, last I heard was somewhere around 50,000. Mm-hmm. What do they have to do for that to happen and be successful here in America, Michael, in your eyes?
Well, first of all, shorter cards. I mean, they're real long. And I think they have to be careful. Now, here's my disclaimer to this whole thing. I'm not a regular consumer of AEW, so I only know what I see in the headlines and reading show rundowns and stuff. But it feels like AEW is continental New Japan. They have been taken over by a lot of talent from across the pond, which is not a bad thing. A lot of those guys are extremely talented, but there's a story issue. And you've got a lot of guys, or not a lot, some of them don't communicate well over the microphone. You just need to have some star power if you're going to have big shows like this. And so I don't know what that means tangibly, but what I know is that they've proven that putting on a 12-match card doesn't fill the seats. So I think they're just going to have to continually try and figure out, hey, what is it for us that puts people in the seats? That, or $20 a ticket will sell a ticket. So one or the other or both, I think they can get there. But I hate to sound like a broken record from other podcasts, but AEW doesn't have a talent problem. They don't have a production problem. They only have a story problem. And it may be where the best go to wrestle, but wrestling for the sake of wrestling without telling some type of story, it's just not entertaining.
Stories that lead to nothing is the same thing as having a match that has no story to go with it. You do need a mix, at least a mix of both of them. If they can get better at that, I think that will definitely help. If you are going to have a 12-match card, can we start the thing at 5 versus starting at 7:30 and go until midnight? That'd be all right too. And good news is, no matter when they do it, Globe Life Field is indoors, a retractable roof, so you can close it if it's in the middle of the summer. It can be nice and 72 inside. If you need to do it that way. Bash in Berlin is coming up here in just a couple of weeks. Already some great matches on the card that are locked in over at WWE. Damian and Rhea versus Dom and Liv. We haven't seen an intergender match on a card like this in a long time. That one makes absolute sense. That's going to be a fun one. Randy Orton challenging for the world title against Gunther. And then one that, I'll be honest, from Friday that I didn't see coming, but I'm here for it. And this kind of lends itself to no story, just match. Although there is story and there will be leading up to it, I'm excited to see how they position this and what they do with it. And that's Cody Rhodes defending the WWE title against Kevin Owens. Out of those three right now that we know about, what are your feelings on each?
I think they're all great setups. To your point, I'll start with Cody and Kevin. We're going to see Cody make his way back through the roster of kind of the primary guys. I don't think I don't think Cody and Kevin necessarily needs a story. Kevin is a main event player. He's around a lot. He's a workhorse of a performer. Simply for that alone, he deserves to have a title shot. You've got to have a challenger, and it can't always be this, knockdown, drag out 2-year-long story to finish the story.
Yeah,
and
true.
so to me, it makes perfect sense whether they build on top of it or not, just because Kevin's a contender. The mixed gender match, I think is great. I think I'm glad we took a break from that stuff for a while, because what always bothered me about those is they always use those as an excuse to tell a story with some people who weren't necessarily full-blown wrestlers. And I'm not just talking about women who were rostered that maybe weren't very good. It's not even that. I mean, if you remember, I think his name was Nicholas, won the, well, that's not intergender, but to the point, we just saw a lot of weird combinations in that. So having 4 people that are all very, very, very good at what they do, I'm very excited for that. But the creme de la creme for me is going to be Randy Orton and Gunther.
Dude.
Randy Orton holding the World Heavyweight Championship from years gone by is one of my favorite championship looks. He just looks so sharp. And Gunther, don't even need to say much, but that's just going to be a good match. And I think what I'm going to like about it the most is those guys are going to work not at a slow pace, but at a steady, moderate pace the whole match. And it's not going to be flip this, flip that. It's not going to be diving through the ropes, doing suicide dives. You're going to see a wrestling match between 2 heavyweight contenders that's just going to be a clinic. And I'm really excited for that.
Not these exact words, but Gunther said on Monday, basically, I will be taking you to the woodshed in Berlin. And off mic, you can hear Randy go, "Oh, I don't doubt it." I'm expecting this. Absolutely. Bring it. Something I thought was interesting, the visual that I got of those two in the ring together on Monday was, man, I've always thought that Gunther, a big dude, thick dude, and then comes Randy. And I'm like, oh, crap, you look kind of small next to Randy right now.
Randy is yoked. He is yoked, man.
Probably gassed to the gills, and that's okay. He looks absolutely amazing right now. And in the best shape of his life, he looks like he could run through a brick wall right now. And I would bet the odds that he would do it.
Yeah.
Back to Cody real quick on that as well. I think this is interesting that they have chosen he and Kevin, which I agree they're gonna go back through. What it's given me is an answer to a question I was just thinking and that I haven't really said out loud, and it was, okay, so we spent 2 years being behind Cody to accomplish this goal of finishing his story. It wasn't that I was starting to question, but I was like, okay, I'm not as bought in to Cody after being the champion as I was him getting the championship. him now going through people that I wasn't expecting, starting with Kevin, I'm like, okay, I kind of like this, because this is it's a story, but it's a different story. It's not the predictable good guy, bad guy. You stole this from me, I'm getting it back. Whatever it is, that we see in other storylines that are going right now. This one is, I respect you, you respect me, we're buddies, and I think you need a shot at the title, and we need to really see who's best out of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I kind of like that.
Yeah, and here's the thing: we have to zoom out and have context. You can't, without a significant amount of time in between, you can't top something story-wise that we saw with Cody. You can't top it.
Yeah.
And so anything, regardless of how cool it is going to be a cool down period. Sure. I look at, say, the new Star Wars movies that have come out over the last decade. This is a weird example, but I'm going to go for it. These movies continued after the story of Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader, the whole storyline of the Skywalker family. But when you come out with new movies that are establishing new characters and this whole thing, you're just kind of like, meh. But at the same time, my son, who has not really seen any Star Wars movies, gets a glimpse of these new ones. He's like, hey, this is pretty cool. You know? And sure. Comparison is the death of art. And so I don't want to compare Cody now versus Cody chasing the title. He's the same guy, but we've just got to allow time for new stories to develop. Really, at the moment, we're probably just waiting on Reigns to come back for the second part of, that story, his rematch and so forth. But I'm just kind of sitting back and enjoying the ride, because if I play the comparison game, it's just a black hole that you're never going to be happy.
Shout out to those of you who follow us on TikTok. It has been very interesting to see the interaction lately on TikTok, and how you guys have not only joined in on our conversations, but had your own conversations about our conversations. And a really huge shout out to the one that asked if we had ever considered a treadmill. Man, yeah, I've taken that to heart, and I've been in the gym long before you suggested it, but I'm really glad you did to help keep me on track. So keep the comments coming, keep the views coming. Check us out if you haven't followed us on TikTok or Instagram yet. You can find us at WrestleChat Podcast. Friday, Roman got his hands on the Bloodline 2.0. Nothing's been announced for Berlin yet in this feud, and we are very, very early in this of him coming back. Do you see this maybe a battle for Bad Blood versus going overseas with this one? Are we going to stretch this one out and go for Bad Blood coming up in September? And how does that that chili pepper necklace come into play here for you, Michael?
Well, you would think that before anything happens with accolades, i.e. championships, you would think that the family turmoil has to be settled first. I thought that when they announced Bad Blood, that it was a little random and interesting, because they don't do like big promos for every pay-per-view. I mean, there are promos, but you've got this promo that's been airing for months now of Cody and a guy that I don't know. I'm sorry. I think he's a musician, artist, rapper.
I believe he's a rapper.
Yeah. Sitting in a car staking out the arena in Atlanta. You don't see stuff like that for every pay-per-view, premium live event. And that said to me from the get-go, like, I think they're probably aiming for something here. So with your question set up, I would think we would punt some stuff to Bad Blood, because that would make sense. But who knows?
Bloodline, Bad Blood, seems good.
It works. But I hope, just like with everything else, they don't rush this stuff with Roman and Solo. I think there's a lot of, we could be building to WrestleMania, honestly, and maybe Roman looking at the title maybe after that. I don't know, but so far I have learned to trust the process, because everything in and around the Bloodline, thank you, Paul Heyman and Michael Hayes, we have not been let down. And so I'm just going to grab some popcorn, sit back and enjoy it. But I know it's going to hit when we get it, because maybe we'll get some OG Bloodline aligning with Roman again. Maybe we won't. Maybe there'll be some crossing. I did see a theory online, and this is like pretty deep into the rabbit hole, but I wanted to throw it out there really quick. And credit to whoever said this. I didn't notate it, but it was not me, so throw that disclaimer out there. They said that the Ula Fala, however you say it, the chili
Bless
pepper necklace,
Yeah.
can only be retrieved by a higher ranking official in the Bloodline thing. So the premise of it is that Solo would not have been able to acquire it on his own, and it would have taken someone higher up in the family to get it for him.
I.e. Rocky.
And so I think we're potentially setting something up down the line as well. But I think Rock also wants a go at the WWE Undisputed Championship, as we were teasing, before he left television a few months ago. But interesting stuff that keeps us kind of bought into the Bloodline. But I've been rambling a little too long. I wanted to throw all that out there, but very, very, very cool stuff.
Well, we have seen that if he can't get his hands on that title, he'll just make his own and carry that around at WrestleMania. So it doesn't really matter if he goes for that one or not. Rock's going to get a title one way or the other. He got a brand new one. Why not? One that was never used on TV. Let's use that.
And the most important thing is it was his idea to create.
His idea, absolutely. 100% it was. That theory is one that I thought of as well. Not necessarily about the Ufalala or whatever it's called.
The loofah.
But the loofah. But the whole deal of there being somebody backing Solo and these guys. Solo, I mean, literally was, a month before WrestleMania was the lackey, was the guy that was and then all of a sudden after WrestleMania, he's the guy in charge. There has to be somebody else pulling the strings. And that's kind of how I feel it is with The Rock. And maybe that comes out after a match at Bad Blood or something else down the line. Excited to see where they go with it. Should be a lot of fun. Friday's going to be a lot of fun too. I know SmackDown coming back. And speaking of SmackDown, that's getting ready to move over to USA. I believe Michael Cole is going over there for the launch of it on USA, and then back to Raw when it goes to Netflix. So he's the guy who launches things, evidently. I just wondered, they haven't made an announcement about Pat McAfee yet. Do you think Pat sticks around through all of the ESPN College Game Day stuff, or will he take some time off yet?
I don't know. It depends on how he structured his deal. I think it was either something on his show or maybe a side interview that he did that he had, in some of his negotiating with his recent contracts, done a lot of stuff for private jets and travel and all that type of stuff. And so, man, if you've got a jet at your disposal, probably isn't very hard just to hop over to a city. Here's the thing. Wrestling commentary is better because of Pat McAfee.
I agree. 100%.
And it would be a shame to lose him, during, especially once football starts back up, but at the same time, he's valuable. He's good at everything he does, and so I don't. There's a whole group
there's a whole group that doesn't think our way, that is looking for Pat McAfee to leave wrestling. We are not on that side. We both are big fans of Pat and hope he does stick around. I think you're right. I think he does make things better, and if they can work things out for him to be around when whatever happens, I think January would be when Cole would go back, and that's usually around the time we're done with game day. So we'll see what happens. Usually all the stuff happens, in December, all the playoffs and all that stuff, and just after January is the national championship. So might be some overlap there a little bit, but it'd be cool to see him, especially on that first show on Netflix, because that show is going to be epic. And we talk about near 2 million people this past Monday. I think we're going to shatter that for sure on Netflix coming up in January. I think that's going to do it for us this week. Anything else we need to hit before we go?
It's a great time to be a professional wrestling fan, Ant.
Big time. Big time. For Michael Glavin, I'm the Ant-Man. We'll see you next week here on the Wrestle Chat podcast.